Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching The What Now on TVC News. We turn our attention now to the Middle East, where White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says he's hopeful that a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas will be successfully negotiated this week. Jake Sullivan said that there's a strong possibility that a deal can be completed before President Joe Biden leaves office. A draft agreement has been sent to both sides, which includes clauses for the release of hostages and a staggered withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. We'll have more details in this report.
The Israeli government and Hamas say they're in the final stages of indirect talks over a deal for a ceasefire and the release of hostages held in Gaza and the Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. The agreement is set to be implemented in 3 phases, the first of which would last 42 days. The deal will deliver the first reprieve from the war for the people of Gaza in more than a year, and only the second since the Hamas-led October 7 attacks. Israel will release many hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in an exchange, and Israeli officials said, including Palestinians convicted of killing Israelis. Palestinian civilians in Gaza will also be allowed to freely return to the north of the Strip, and Israeli officials said, saying that there will also be a security arrangement in place. The White House National Security Advisor says he is hopeful that a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas will be successfully negotiated this week. Jake Sullivan said there is a strong possibility that the deal can be completed before President Joe Biden leaves office.
There is a ceasefire in Lebanon and the possibility of a new political future with a new president. Russia and Iran's lackey in Syria, Assad, is gone, and we are now at a pivotal point in the negotiations for a hostage deal and ceasefire in Gaza. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday and just got off the phone with the Emir of Qatar. He'll be speaking soon also with President Sisi of Egypt. We are close to a deal, and it can get done this week. I'm not making a promise or a prediction, but it is there for the taking, and we are going to work to make it happen.
Hamas has replaced all militants killed in Gaza. Once the United States, Gaza faces a perpetual war if Israel and Hamas do not sign a hostage deal to end the conflict. The U.S. has also warned. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, said Washington estimated that Hamas had recruited almost as many new members as it had lost during the war against Israel so far. The war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza has raged for 15 months, turning Gaza into a wasteland and displacing at least 90% of Palestinians since October 2023, according to the United Nations. And more than 46,000 people have been killed, mostly women and children, according to Palestinian Health Ministry.
And to discuss this, global affairs analyst Benga Nifadi joins me via Zoom from London. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
So this particular deal was first proposed in May last year, and it's been months upon months of trying to reach an agreement. So what do you make of this rapid progress in the last 1 week?
Well, you could say, good afternoon. You could say this is more timely. Because, like many people understand, America is, they're bidding for they're waiting for the new president in less than a week. And it will be shortchanged if Biden would let that go and become someone else's win, considering, this has been going on in over 2 years and in terms of the war. And of course, he has actually put in a lot of work in it as well. So he would not like this to define his governance. And of course, if he can say we can agree that there's actually been a lot more progress being made. I think many of the people are saying you cannot trust Hamas, but on the other hand, we can say, right now you are getting both of them in the same room. So this is actually immense progress. And, like I said, this is quite timely, and Biden would like this to be a quick win for himself.
And a part of these agreements is a staggered release of hostages, which Hamas had taken on October the 7th, and then withdrawal of Israeli forces, from Gaza. which means that this would dovetail into the Trump administration. Is that a sticking point? Do you worry that, I mean, Trump can have some sort of influence over this agreement in the long run?
The good news is that President Trump and Joe Biden, they actually, I mean, generally they sit on the same fence when it comes to the fact that they believe that Israel has the right to defend itself. They believe that all hostages should be released. I think there's a general consensus when it comes to, you know, who drew the first shots, and that was Hamas. So I think they would rather, you know, regardless of how, yes, it's a phase-out agreement and it's actually been a lot more detailed now. I think they would rather want to see this through, you know, with a push on both sides, really, on both ends. Israel wants an end to the war. Hamas definitely do want an end to the war. There's not a win-win on both sides. I think we've actually had Israelis even protesting now, seeking an end to the war. We've actually had a few soldiers also calling for an end to this as well. So yes, you are right. Probably a little bit of a sticking point here, but I think we will definitely make more progress. There's actually been more arrangement in terms of rebuilding, you know, governance in order to prevent this happening in future. So I think in this case, if they're able to see it through, they're able to agree, this, no matter what, even if it might phase into President Trump's, and he wouldn't want he's had enough headache that he's going to miss. He wouldn't want it sticking around in his presidency, so he would rather want it quickly sped up and get over and done with, ultimately. And of course, Israel would like to build. They've got lots and lots of their reserves into these. They've got their economy, you know, which has actually come through. They're actually depending as well on First World, and they just want to put an end to this. And again, you know, even though America is not exactly directly involved, but they've got proxies. You know, they've got Ukraine and Russia as another headache which they've got to battle with. So they would rather want this closed straight away, and they can face a lot more home fronts. So
barely 3 months ago, it was the conversation was around the Middle East on the brink of an outright war. Now we're seeing a ceasefire deal with Israel and Hezbollah, Israel and Hamas, regime change in Syria. Is there a semblance of peace and stability now in the Middle East?
I think it's too early to call. Of course, Israel, they played this tactically. They didn't actually get boots on ground with Hezbollah. It's more of a technological, psychological war to have to defeat them. Hezbollah didn't think about it. It was more like an overnight, you know, shift change and let's get this over and done with. Number one, you know, you've got the what's it called, Assad is gone. You know, Syria, they do not actually want any interference with Israel. They've just got their own thing now, do their own thing in a civilized, civil way. But then you've still got Iran, which is constantly sticking around. Iran is still there. That's not going to go away. That is actually the big elephant in the room. So we can't.
I do apologize. I have to interrupt you because of time. But you know, you're making really good point there. Iran is still a sticking point. Thank you so much for your time, as always. I'm Global Affairs Analyst Benga Onifade.
Thanks for having me.